Hey there! In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add a reticle to your HUD which will appear when you pick up a weapon. It will also expand when you shoot to reflect your recoil and contract after a short delay. We're going to be using Unreal Engine 5.3 and Synty Studio's UI pack, the Fantasy Warrior HUD, although most Synty Studio's UI packs will function very similarly. To start, let's choose a reticle that we want to use. We can go to the Reticles and Crosshairs folder and select one from there. Now let's go back to our HUD and search for the one we want. In this case, I think I'll go with Reticle 06. We can select it and drag it into the center portion of our screen. Now we also want to select the screen space area and make sure that the anchors are equaled out. The bottom offset is a little longer than the top offset, so let's change that so they're both the same. This will make it so that when we move the reticle to the center of our screen, it's properly centered. Now select the crosshair, select the anchor, and set it to the center. Let's set the alignment to 0.5, 0.5 so that the widget is again properly centered. We can also size it to the content. Now let's set the position to 0 by 0, and as you can see, the widget is properly centered. Now if we compile and save and play, the reticle will appear immediately, but let's make it more interesting and have it appear when we pick up a weapon. We can search this area for visibility and set the visibility to be hidden. Let's compile and save that. Now let's go to our first person character, and we can make a new custom event by right-clicking and typing custom, and naming it something like set reticle visibility. We'll go to the inputs and add a new variable. It'll be a boolean and we'll call it be visible. Now if it's true or false, we want to set the visibility. So let's get a reference to our HUD, drag it into here, break off that, and get the reticle. Now for the reticle, we can do set visibility, and we can drag off the visibility and do select. Now we can collect the visible pin from the set reticle visibility to the index, connect these, and now when we set it to be true, we want it to be visible, false, we want it to be hidden. So let's set that, compile, and save this. Now if we go back to our first person map, we can select the first person weapon, BP pickup rifle, and click here to load up the blueprint. Now that we've loaded our BP pickup rifle, we can modify the logic a bit. Let's move the destroy actor at the end to make a little room for ourselves. We can see that when this component overlaps with our BP first person character, it saves a reference to it. That's useful for us. Let's get a reference, drag it into here, and off of that, we can now set reticle visibility. Let's move this here, set visible to true, and hold Control while clicking on the execution pin on the destroy actor and connect it to the set reticle visibility. Move this here, and then connect that back to destroy actor. Now let's compile and save that. If we go back to our first person map and play, we can run up to our rifle, and the reticle appears on our screen. You can see it's playing a demo animation now. Let's make it so that it actually expands when the player shoots and contracts after a short delay. The first thing we need to do is disable the demo animation so we can properly control the expansion and contraction of the reticle through the player shooting. Let's go back to our HUD, select the crosshair, and set demo active to false. We can control the expansion and contraction of the reticle through this aim value, but let's leave it at 0 for now, compile and save this. We'll set up the logic on our player character. Let's go back to our BP first-person character and make a reference to our reticle. We'll go back to our begin play, hold Control, and drag a myHUD ref into the world. Off of that, we can search for the reticle and get that, and promote that to a variable by dragging off of it and clicking Promote to Variable. This will just make our lives easier to have a reference to the reticle. Now what we need to do is right-click and make a new custom event, which we'll call Add Recoil. We also need to add two variables. We need a float named aim, and another float called add aim on fire. Let's compile that so we can change the value and make its default value something like 0.25. We'll compile and save that. Now what we need to do is play the aim animation. We're going to get a reference to a reticle that we just promoted to a variable, drag off of that, and do play animation time range. Drag off the reticle again and get a reference to the animation we want by searching for anim underscore and selecting anim aim. Connect that to the in animation. Now what we need to do is set the start time to be our current aim and the end time to be our aim plus add aim on fire. So let's get an aim and connect it to the start time. Then we need to drag aim in, drag off that and do add, and connect add aim on fire to that. However, we also need to clamp this value. So let's drag off of this and clamp it. By default, it'll clamp it between 0 and 1, which is perfect. We can connect that to the end time, and then we can connect that to the event. Then we need to set our aim value after that. We want it to be after we play the animation so that the start time is our current aim. We can connect the clamp to our new aim. You can double click within these wires to set reroute nodes, which will make it look nicer. Now what we need to do is, after a short delay, go back to 0 and contract. So what we want to do is do a retriggerable delay, and we want it to be retriggerable so that if the player shoots multiple times, it doesn't contract within the middle of them shooting. We'll set the default duration to be something like 1. Now what we need to do is copy our reference to our reticule in the aim animation and paste it here. This time, we want to drag off the reticule and do play animation, not play animation time range. Connect the anim aim to it, and set the play mode to be reverse. Then what we need to do is get our aim, and off of that, subtract. Then hold control from the aim and connect it to the bottom part. We want to subtract 1 minus aim. Connect that to the start time. Then after that's all done, set aim back to 0. Let's connect all of these nodes. Now we need to actually call this function. The weapon functionality is actually handled in a component. So let's go back to the first person map, go to the content browser, and go to blueprints under first person. We can load the BP weapon component and add the logic here. This is where the player shoots as the input, it spawns a projectile, plays a sound, and plays a montage. At the end, we can get a reference to our first person character, which is already handily there for us, drag off that, and do add recoil. Connect all of that, compile, save, close this, and let's give it a test. We run up to our weapon, the reticule appears, we shoot, and it expands. It properly contracts after about 1 second. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments what tutorials you'd like to see next, and be sure to check out our community Discord. You can find a link in the description.